My name is Samantha Robbie-Higgins. I am born and raised in Toronto. I just graduated from OCAD 2 years ago, but I took a 5th year last year. And I've basically been working here in the studio almost every day, just trying to build up a big portfolio. I work very intuitively. I look at the canvas and I kind of put in a background, and then from that, I try to just pick things out of like what I may have seen that day, like change the shapes or change the patterns or change something, and then remember that while I'm working and incorporate that into my pieces. Florence is the reason why I'm sitting here today. It was actually a special program at OCAD where they accept about 23 students to go off to Florence. And I applied there honestly thinking that I wasn't going to get accepted because I didn't have a cohesive body of work. I didn't really have a solid plan of what I wanted to do there. All I knew is that I really wanted to go there. So when I found out that I was accepted, obviously I was like flabbergasted and just like screaming with joy. And when I got there, I basically didn't really have a solid plan on, because I was there for thesis too. So like I didn't know exactly what I was going to be doing in terms of like a cohesive body of work. And it was over there that I got this amazing professor named Dan Solomon who taught me basically the ins and outs of like contemporary art. It was actually other artists where I started to grab inspiration from Florence. So Florence was sort of like the breaking point where I actually found a cohesive style there, which was like a 3-step process where I would make these little kind of maquettes and then do these little kind of take like found or unwanted objects, paint over them and make these little fantastical scenes out of them. And then after that, I would photograph them and find a right composition with that. And then from that composition, I would make a painting out of it. And so that was basically my whole body of work in Florence, and I learned it all there. So Florence is the reason why I'm here now. So honestly, I think it's just the freedom to put whatever you want that sometimes you can't explain in your head. You know, sometimes it's like a unconscious thing where you can just put it on a blank canvas and it gives you the freedom to sort of express yourself. My unconscious is like filled with shapes and colors and patterns, and that's what I get my inspiration from mostly. My biggest inspiration, he's not from Toronto, his name's Diego Hortel. He's an artist from Barcelona. Very, very chaotic, but yet it's controlled. So it's kind of like he'll have like this gradient background from like one color going into another color, and then in the foreground it's like some crazy palette knife work with like just a whole range of colors that just work together. And I've been looking at a lot of his work and I've been reading some interviews and just to see what his process is like. It's called The Hills, and I think that's exactly sort of the process that I'm trying to get at in terms of like a hybrid between landscape and abstract. Most people would probably just see it as abstract, but I call it The Hills because the first thing I saw when I was using this pouring medium, which is this guy, with a bunch of different acrylics, I would just sort of fold the colors over, and then it started to turn into these hills. And that's where I was so kind of fascinated with this hybrid between abstract and landscape to sort of put those two together. And like I said, all intuitive, it just sort of turned out like that. Favorite gallery that I visit frequently is the Angel Gallery, which is right at Lansdowne and DuPont. Jamie Angel, the owner of the gallery, he like basically everything that he's interested in, I'm just like, oh my God, it's so beautiful. Like he's a color junkie too, so you know, that's the place that I frequent quite a bit to grab inspiration from. It's competitive, walking around the city sometimes and looking at galleries. It's just, sometimes you look at other people's work and you're just like, oh my God, how am I ever gonna get to that point? But you can't think like that. You have to focus on yourself, not focus on other people's work. Right now I'm actually working on these very small pieces. Those are like my solid abstract works that I'm trying to just build up into, like they're very small now, but they're gonna get bigger and bigger as the months go by. And then hopefully you'll see them in galleries.